My wife.
I'm going to call this meeting of the April 5th, 2020 regular meeting of the Hancock County Commissioners to order. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
I'm going to move to approve the agenda as presented with the exception of removing items 4C and 14B.
Second, please. In favor?
Aye.
To open, let's see, is there anyone who would like to make a public comment today? Seeing none. Approve the meeting minutes.
I'm going to move to approve the minutes of the March 15th special meeting as presented.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have some employee recognition, got a good crowd. Andrew Sankey.
Sure.
I'm going to move to recognize and thank EMA Director Andrew Sankey for his 10 years of service to Hancock County.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I just said to the chair, there's not too many places we can hide you in the room, but that was.
No more plates. Thank you.
Here we go. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Gonna go back into hiding.
Dennis Walls.
I'm going to move to recognize and thank Facilities Director Dennis Walls for his 10 years of service to Hancock County.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, Dennis.
Thank you.
Eleanor Truesdale.
I'm going to move to recognize and thank Legal Secretary 1, Eleanor Truesdale, for 20 years of service to Hancock County.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we jump to the next one? Ellie will be coming over, I think, in just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Michael Marshall.
I'm going to move to recognize and thank crew leader janitor Michael Marshall for his 5 years of service to Hancock County.
Second the motion.
Aye.
All right.
I'll set this on behalf.
All right.
You would-
Guys.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, so thank you.
Very good. Yeah, thanks very much.
Maybe we can grab Ellie over here if you wish.
Okay. Good. Tim, can I have you come on up?
Good morning.
Morning.
As you see, most of these are sort of jail programs or a program providers. Betsy Duncan, which has done she's a licensed social worker for us. She's a big player in MAT program that provides that. And our MAT contract provides some of the funding for her also. So she would like to speak a little bit but first. But then we have Jean has been here just what, couple of years?
Give or take.
She's been here since the place opened, I think. Been here a long time, and it's volunteer work. All these years been volunteer. She's vital to the program. She knows everything. She's on our board of visitors. She really helps us run the facility quietly in the background, but she knows everything. I don't think new inmates has been through our facility that has not had contact with Jean. So, she could come up here with me for a second?
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't
gonna
know a
move.
thing about it.
Good. Hold on.
Confidentiality.
So I'm gonna move to recognize and thank Gene Hendricks for 18 years of volunteer work to the county jail. And I'm glad I've never met you, but this is the. I'm pleased to meet you now. Thank you.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will. 18 years. Whoa.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
You're very welcome.
I'm just woman's husband. I just wish you could have kept up with her for 4 or 5 days a week.
Now, you should be thanked. Wow. Thank you. Eleanor?
We passed the motion thanking you, so.
All right, you turn around, face Rebecca.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just sure.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we want to say a few things about your program. Either one of you, real quick before we move on.
That's it. You should.
Yep.
What's your stand up? At the microphone.
I'm ready to please.
I'm not really prepared for any of this.
I want to thank you all for keeping the secret. This has been like 2 months in progress.
Oh, my God.
I think that was my design.
I'd rather have you probably ask me a question, but instead of thanking me, I want to thank them. I want to thank Frank and Tim because they have done an amazing job. And the changes that have taken place since they have been at the jail, particularly Tim coming on, Frank's been there much longer, is we are going in such a positive direction as far as going into a more compassionate place at the jail. Of course, there's always correction, but a more compassionate place, and it's working as far as, and I think they would agree, as far as how bringing in the programs that we have. I mean, I'm a volunteer, but there's his Betsy, who is doing incredible work along with medical assisted therapy and her own mindfulness therapy. But we have had, what I've seen over the years is these programs making a huge difference in relieving stress, anxiety. It makes their job easier. And that is my goal, is to be there and have them relate to someone and have their time at the jail, whether they're going out or going out to prison, make it easier for the staff that has to deal with them day in and day out. We can leave, the staff doesn't leave, and they can't either. And I've seen an incredible difference going in that direction with programs. It gets them out of the block and into something. One in particular is, well, of course you have your Bible studies, I can talk forever about this, but you also have our high set program, which is with writing and poetry. It's doing an amazing as far, and we're going to have a GED ceremony. Is that right? Someone's going to get their diploma. Cross their fingers. That will be the first one. But also the programs involving the recovery coaches from Healthy Acadia. They've made a tremendous difference. It's all about having someone they can talk to. And I guess that was my job and still will be. It's probably, I will say this, the best thing I've ever done.
So you're coordinating all these programs. Is that your function?
No, I'm just a part of it. Who's our coordinator? Right there.
So
And they've been very welcoming to people who've asked to be a part of the program. Of course, the difference being, and I've forgotten the library, but the difference is COVID. We have not been in there. The programs haven't been able to function. And then there's NA and AA that needs to be there as well, that haven't functioned.
I'm concerned, Chef, that, 18 years of service is just outstanding and whatnot, but
Yeah.
you kind of wonder, how much longer are we going to, what's the replacement for this position? Recognized function in the jail or I'm just curious as to what her specific role is and making sure that we continue that in the future.
She's technically, her title is discharge planning.
Yeah,
but
well, that was
really,
a long time.
honestly, Jean does so much more. She's a retired counselor, so she
Yeah,
does some
so
counseling
I've got that.
pieces. She does like getting books for them, getting helpful books for them, but also like we've called up Jean and said, hey, this person's on the outside and they need help. And Jean has facilitated assistance for those that are now in the community. And we can call up Jean on a moment's notice, and Jean is Johnny on the spot to help these people.
Outstanding.
She's built that library, probably be one of the best libraries in the facility.
He's a little help now, Tim.
The library is almost too big, but books just keep coming. I don't know where the money comes from, but just books keep coming.
It comes from donors, and some of the donors are here.
She's out there chasing the donors to
Yeah.
provide that. So libraries, is no cost to us. She thinks she plays a small part, but she knows everything going on in that facility. She knows the good and the bad, and she's not afraid to tell us. That's the best part, is that she'll tell us that this inmate has this issue, this is what we need to do, we don't have this, so we make it happen, and she makes sure we do.
Outstanding. Very good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we're gonna see you
You're
again.
welcome. I hesitate to mention that I began, and I will mention the Hancock County Jail Volunteers, which we are sort of what's left of that group. But it's expanded because it was a group run by a woman named Judy Garvey who founded it because of her history with one of her children who was in the jail. And then brought in, but that was years ago, but it's developed into more of it's just developed, it's grown. And now it's taken on a broader, probably a better situation in relation to the people who are at the jail, like Frank and Tim, so, yeah.
Thank
But
you
we
very
have to
much.
give her credit because that's how basically Betsy and I got there, just by basically an ad in the paper, really, looking for people to come in. But it's so much more now that she should be very proud.
Great.
Thank you.
No, to thank them.
You have no.
You want to talk for a second?
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Ross, hi, I'll speak to my program really quickly, but I want to move it back on to Jean to make sure all the points have been covered, and I jotted some things down over coffee, so I'll glance here and there, but yes, I'm a colleague of hers, and I tag team with her to provide the counseling to as many people in the jail as I can. My official hat says co-occurring disorder therapist for those that are in the MAT program, which basically means, as you may know, medication-assisted treatment. So these are people to whom a bridge is provided, really upon which they can develop coping skills that they can take out back into the community so that they can avoid the copious numbers of opioid-related overdose deaths that are happening in Maine. So again, it's a bridge. It's an important bridge. It hasn't existed yet, as far as I know, as a protocol, and it's happening in this jail. So that currently about half of the inmates are a part of this. And again, then when it's ready for them to move on to their own feet out in the community, they'll be supported clinically. So I, as part of the program, I meet with everyone on the program, ideally once a month, to begin to provide not only the screening and admission to the program, the behavioral health part, but also the the tools, the self-soothing, self-support and coping tools that ideally we're building up for them. Jean provides more than the other half. Jean sees everyone that is not in the program and then some. We overlap as colleagues. We, under the umbrella of confidentiality, provide peer support for one another. So we discuss cases. We've known each other, we've done this for 18 years on and off, although she's been more seamless than me. I've come and gone. It's a strange life path. But I've always been supported by this jail, and this jail is central to my heart and profession as well, really. So just to talk to Jean just for a second, I wanted to say that she's the gold standard in counseling. I mean, she is the counselor that both professionally and personally I admire beyond, I could almost say, all others. So you can imagine the honor it is to work alongside her. And why do I have such clarity on this? Well, she understands the value of connecting with people, of validating them, of bestowing dignity upon them. And she does it at the same time as she holds them to accountability. She's sassy, she's direct, and she sits with people and helps them look at themselves because they're in a comfortable enough environment. They're in the safety that she provides as a counselor. But she's spot on with, the jail goal of taking responsibility, holding accountability, and moving beyond it, going beyond what has been done as far as criminal behavior. So where I come in is providing, I do a different kind of counseling and provide a lot of sort of experiential tools that help people find a safe place within them when needed, because as I understand trauma, and about 90% of all the inmates in the jail have experienced trauma. That's a national statistic. Of incarcerated people are involved in the system, often in childhood trauma. They can be triggered, and that's what we're seeing a lot. It's the out in the community and even within the jail, various behaviors and forms of violence and reoffending. So if we can heal some of those roots of trauma, we're doing great. And so between us, I think we try to work with that. The administrators here are another gold standard. I mean, I've never seen a system that has understood the holism of healing the human being. And I'm doing some work on the side to try to bring some of that to light over time. Also, a research study that'll be happening about a year from now. But I think that it's stellar what's happening. Tim and Frank are encouraging and ushering in here because to me, it's the only win-win solution there is. If we're not healing deeply, and this is the opportunity to heal as well as to bring to accountability. So that's where the programs come in. Jean spoke to that, and that's where Jean comes in because I consider her front and center. So thank you for listening and for honoring Jean this way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Just one quick thing, I know that they do it for our inmate population, but they've also been there for staff during some of the situations had on the facility. They've always been there for staff to assist them and speak with them when they need the staff also. So we'll move on. Promote part-time corrections officer Gail McDonough for full-time at level 9A with full benefits effective April 9th, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Accept the resignation of full-time corrections officer Garrett Giroux as and approve classification as part-time corrections officer effective April 9th, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As you see, we're losing another officer. We're down 3, so we're really scrambling. So staff is stepping up.
You had another one.
Yeah, that was taken off during the agenda.
Is that a possibility still in the future? or-
No.
It's not gonna happen.
No. We're in discussion of staying on part-time or resigning, just move to the area, so
I see.
we're working on that, so.
Good luck. Like I told Rebecca this morning, you almost need your full-time human resource officer.
We're lucky that the staff we have is stepping up and filling patrolling shifts and different things happen. Including Lieutenant Shepard and Pat Sauce here on the admin side, they've been doing a lot of extra details himself to help the staff out, so that can't go unrecognized either. Other than that, I'm all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike? Would you be able to?
Yep.
I think we're ready for you.
This is your seat.
Okay, I'll take it. Well, Jane.
I'll take Dennis's seat.
All right.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we put an ad in the paper last week to advertise for bids. And, as of this morning, I haven't gotten any requests, but the printing the bid documents this morning. So we're ready.
What database, Mike, is it that architects go into, contractors go into to see what jobs are available? Is there something?
Yeah, there is. There's actually several sort of aggregating agencies. And basically the way the system works is if you put an ad in a public notice, a newspaper public record, these aggregating agencies basically comb the public records. And generally, general contractors are subscribing to the services of one of these aggregating agencies.
So you don't have to do anything specific, you just make your ad and they'll grab it. I mean, we know that that's in that database for these.
Yeah, I think very few general contractors actually subscribe to newspapers to look at the public notices themselves. They subscribe to one of these services. That way, for instance, like in Maine, you can just put an ad in the Kennebec Journal and it'll get picked up by everybody who's subscribed to the service. Or, we usually, use Bangor Daily News, and if it's local, Ellsworth American. But they're all newspapers of public record. So as long as you're in one of them, general contractors will be able to see that. We also, just as a matter of course, kind of reach out to people that we know might be a good fit for the project, just to, stir up some interest.
I know you gave us a timeline here, but how long do they have to submit? Contracts that submit new ones?
Yeah, I think what we had done was had a 3-week bid period, and that includes a pre-bid walkthrough that I would attend with interested general contractors. What Dennis had advised us was that the bids would be opened up at a commissioners meeting. So what we did was we actually gave the contractors up until that next commissioners meeting. So I think it was more like 3.5 week bid period.
And we were talking about the handicap entrance and that step, that gets solved.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
did.
that one, yeah.
One way. That was, it's hard, so this is of a size that it's hard to,
Sure. No, I understand.
okay, so there's no step.
There's no step, yeah.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah, basically there's a paint stripe on the pavement.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't read.
Yeah.
Now, under the new scheme, we retained the same number of parking spaces, except one of them now is designated handicap, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the parking count's the same. Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. I should say I'm sort of interested in what's going on with our building friend next door. Because if that's a hazard during construction, we ought to know about it.
hazard on falling objects.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned that the duplication of efforts at the same time. I don't know what's gonna happen out there. Obviously, we cannot have two major construction projects going on in the yard at the same time. It's gonna be bad enough because just having a handicap walk done.
Right.
Somebody, well, I suspect that the GC or you or somebody will bring the concerns to us. We'll have to see what that is.
Yeah, I imagine during construction, we're gonna have a series of periodic meetings where the contractor will be able to discuss their progress and we'll be able to discuss, coordinating with basically the flow of staff and visitors to the site. I mean, what we're planning on doing is actually closing off that area that we're working in. And so have the sheriff's department use the exit as their entrance as well. So, and we're going to have a sign at the entrance right on State Street, that basically directs people to, a different way of getting to the building.
Because this project goes right up to that building.
Yes.
So that's gonna be, I don't know how we're gonna.
I don't think we want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta get the bids, gotta see, who knows exactly when the project's gonna get started, because, it's spring now. It might be,
Is that a concern, Mike, that we're a little late getting behind the GCs lining up their work for the summer?
I think what's going on is that almost everybody who has an excavator is right out straight. And this is largely a construction project, so. Had we been out to bid in January, I'm sure things would have been a little better, but I'm not sure the timing is necessarily a major factor.
The reason I say that is that the airport has a drainage project. It's, I don't know, it's over $400,000, one bit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it's not even in the county. And it gives me pause, I mean, about whether or not GCs are just out there.
It is extremely busy. We just bid a project in Machias and only got one bidder, and it was sort of disheartening. We've done other projects in the last couple of years where either because of the, type of project or the area that the project was in, sometimes we get 0 bidders. And then the owner ends up, just bidding it the next season. And, even like reaching out to contractors who we think would be a good fit. A lot of them are right now, as you know, extremely busy, so. And it's inflating bids also.
Makes it expensive.
Well, just as an aside, when I was first starting out in the business, I worked for a general contractor who had a project. And the story was that he and his vice president were driving to present the bid, and the bid was something like $200,000. They looked at each other in the car and said, "You know what? We don't really want this project. Let's change our bid to $400,000." Well, they got the project. So.
Well, there's that, and then help, labor, and, fuel, and all those things. So, we may end up, well, all we can do is see what happens, but we may end up having to rebid this at a later date.
Oh, I know, we can buy Dennis a excavator.
all right.
Mike, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The update. We're at the next meeting. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Great.
We ready for John? Update for us, John?
Sure. First, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm just in broadband, so didn't really leave up much, so. So update, so we have continued outreach. Stubborn towns, I'll say, for at least one in particular, Scott's helping us with right now. We'll get there.
Is it lack of interest? It's just not even.
I think it's busy, and, some of it's budget season as well. You're hearing this is one of the classic cases of, working in this industry. Budgets have to come out and, people get busy.
My sense is that the towns that respond to this are the ones that have meetings.
Yes. Yeah, because they're starting, we'll talk to one town that, said they really don't see that they had an issue very much. So. On the outskirts.
So, yeah, when I look at the, contact status, sometimes it's kind of some sweet issues, but.
Thank you.
Bye, Betsy.
Thank you again, ladies. Great job.
So sometimes it's kind of hard to see where it's changed, but one thing I mentioned this morning when I was looking through it, it did seem to me like we do have more confirmed, right? This, tonight,
Yes.
gonna be, we were able to say this.
And confirm each one. John?
Confirm that they're not pursuing broadband projects.
Filling up.
Yes.
So the sheer number seems to be.
In your data here, whatnot, you talk about number of locations reported. Specifically, I mean, you had almost 500. What's a location? Could that be?
On which, I'm sorry.
You talking about the surveys?
Yeah,
Survey
survey
itself, yeah.
tracking.
Yeah.
You had a number of locations reporting access to the internet.
Yeah.
But there's 500. What's a location?
So that would be a residence, right? Someone that took it,
Oh, I
someone
see.
surveyed.
Oh,
subscribe. Subscribe.
I see.
Ellsworth is another good example, right? So as you know, we're contracting with them outside of this contract, working with them, creating a roadmap for them, with draft and met with their broadband committee last week. And so they're gonna go to the council and say, okay, here's our next steps. That could be, maybe do an RFP with them as well, council looks at it. And say, we talked about who's in flux, who's going to want at what time. So we'll see where Ellsworth kind of lands, because certainly, again, they know that there's unserved areas within Ellsworth. And so how does that look, and how do we kind of work towards that to get those served? So they're in progress, in flight, I'll say.
Scott, based upon the latest data, have you done an update on your $5 million available? What's, you know what I mean? That
Yeah, so in there, it's basically all of the confirmed not pursuing the broadband project. Right now, that total is a little over $1 million. But remember, RBAC has been reversed. Those two towns, and basically they're in there. So in other words, that 900,000 is put back into Acadia, and those two towns are still listed as using their original allotted amount.
So are we back into the plus again?
Oh, yeah, that million, yeah. Yeah, that million is the million that's available, and those are all of the towns, if you look down through, that are confirmed not pursuing a broadband project.
And so that's from a build-out perspective, right? So we also talked about, RBAC's a good example, and I was at the Blue Hill yesterday, and we had a presentation from NTIA, which is a government agency, the federal government agency that the state applied, Maine applied for a grant for a variety of projects. They got $28 million throughout the state, but the 7 towns that we're involved with, are we, collective Hancock County, they were there to, kind of talk about what that project is, where it's going to stand. Consolidated was there, who's going to build that one, what's the time frame. So that's all looking good and positive right now. There's still some steps they have to do to get it done. But that's a good example of, okay, if it's not used for, I'll say, not build out like we've been doing, again, we talked about digital equity. Is there a play there for digital equity, for the commissioners in this county? Is there a play there? But there's also I was on a call with RBAC yesterday, potentially there's an issue with, I'll call it last mile, right? So when you've got some roads or, that are longer driveways, where maybe underground comes into play, right? And not sure where all that's going to land with this peninsula project. And so is there, they're talking about, okay, is there funding that they need to develop, to try to help solve that for people that are a little bit farther off the beat path. So, but not to the tune of the money we're talking.
That meeting yesterday, is that the one that we were informed of?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that a big deal?
Yes, it was. Yeah, well, it's a big deal for those, right, for the state, for Connect Maine Authority, and what Peggy Schaefer, who runs that, did a great job on a call last Friday, actually talked about it, and said, this isn't an overnight success, right? This authority's been doing this for a long time, and these last 5 years have been a lot of focus, and so to get that NTIA money for the state was a big deal. That was a big deal. The presentation was good. they have those 7 towns there, and they're also gonna go up to Idaho, right? It's an island that's gonna get service, and a couple other smaller towns that were a little bit farther south of here, so. That was, so that's where the NJA back also comes into play.
What's likely for us next
Uh,
for towns?
Yeah, so, after being in this project now for a few months and, listening to some of the towns and seeing what's happening in the state, and then some of the federal money that's coming about, now that should be here, they discussed it. Again, the Connectivity Authority discussed it last Friday, and it sounded like they're looking at a fall timeframe. Okay, so if you remember, you don't need it. There's $129 million coming to the state from the Treasury, and then there's going to be another 100 plus a multiplier million coming to the state through the new Infrastructure Act, right? And that, on top of that, so over the next couple of years, the money will start coming in. First round of that, we don't know what they're going to put out there for grants, will be this fall. Then that could be, making it up, 50 million, 70 million, we don't know what they're going to put in for.
Is there a criteria there so that they only dispense that proportional to each county or?
No, that is just state. That's money that's coming from the feds to the state, and then you apply through a grant process to the state. So where this county money could come in, it's like, okay, how do we match? We could be a very good match for those towns, because the towns don't have a lot of money, as we know, right? So trying to come up with a match. So when you start to put this together, you led right into my next steps, by the way. Good question. What do we look at for the county now? Right? Is there a play that we can do from a county perspective that says, okay, we can do a project that's going to take care of this in some way. Some of this money, we've got probably some town money, we've got the carriers, right? So then if we go after the vendors and say, what are you willing to put into it? And then you follow that up with state federal money, right? And then you can kind of almost look at it and say, okay, let's try to solve this, as a project and see what happens.
So this grant from the state, does it require a match that we can participate in? So that's where we play.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
play a good
for
role.
that reason, do you think that, it kind of already says that it's kind of happening, that there's kind of a little bit of a slowdown? Not that your job's slowed down on it, but you know what I mean? Like in terms of the county really
For
allocating funds till
this little
get
period
some
of
of
time.
this
Yeah.
other money into the
Yeah, for this,
pipeline.
probably for this period of time, because I think it's just timing. We were fortunate. We had some projects that we teed up before we even started, right? They were already set down the road, so that was good. Others we found were self-supporting. We had another great project. It was, the work that Ryan Lippold had done in the survey area in Orland and Dedham, and, Bill Barney's coming in, Bill McCartney. We didn't even know that. We started the project and, didn't need funding. So, yeah, projects that were already kind of going.
So John's question, in other words, things will slow down for us maybe for a few months till we get
Could be.
a handle on this federal money.
But, as we uncover a few more rocks,
I shouldn't see any other teed up projects right now.
not right today.
So it sounds like our role's almost changing from being, to maybe being a match as opposed to funding a project. Is that
Yeah.
fair to?
Yeah, and when you think about actually some of the monies that you did do, they were kind of a match.
Yeah.
Right, they weren't the overall, they were just matched in a different way, they're just saying it came through this grant, right? But really for the Swans Island, that was a match. She'll connect me money this last round, we'll know about that funding this month, the end of this month, and the next meeting. Connect Nate's next meeting, they will announce who's won it, who's been awarded that.
And then I've been contacted a couple of times, one by email that I forwarded to Scott. And then I see that like it was Bar Harbor.
Yeah.
And they're not pursuing a broadband project. Are those type, I just don't see how comments like that fit in with what we're seeing here. Is there?
Yeah, so, Bar Harbor, again, it's one of those towns where it's considered covered
Yeah.
from a federal standard, state standard, so it's hard to apply for that money that can really make a difference. And so what they're using is that they're gonna do a private project almost to the town, which is called private development, right? To just connect their buildings with the fiber backbone. But that doesn't provide internet in the public.
Yeah, so that's the town project.
Correct.
But the one that we were contacted, it was, a road in Town Hill that's not covered.
Right.
So that Bar Harbor's project doesn't even address that. So where does a comment like that fit in here?
It's
Or
a challenge, yeah, it's a challenge because, similar to like the town I spoke to that said, yeah, we're all set. But I know they have road issue, this place is,
Yeah.
it's really not our place to say, you gotta get a project together, right? And so where we can change that view, I guess, as we talk to you guys, but where we look at it from there, that's kind of in the town proper of Bar Harbor. And so there's not a project going on. There's nothing to, this group to really.
Well, so I guess my question is really, those projects probably will have to be done outside of a municipal project.
They could be, yes.
And we've just been addressing municipal projects.
Where the municipality has been through either broadband committee or obviously the council, town council meetings through, you're kind of pushing that either with an existing provider or trying to do it themselves.
So do we have a mechanism to identify some of those? Like the person that brought this up, I happen to know where that road is.
Yeah.
A lot of homes on that road. My guess is that that's not the municipality that has an issue like that. And is that something that's do we have a mechanism to identify those? And if we do, can we make a difference there?
So part of what I'm going to be looking at is just that, right? So as a county, just from a county perspective, instead of from maybe a town perspective, from a county perspective, how many of those kind of things out there can we create that? And just do a public-private partnership and get the ball moving so that these things are taken care of. So
Joe, I don't understand, how could the village of Town Hill have a project without the town of Bar Harbor being actively involved in it?
Well, a lot of, I don't know the specifics of that one, but, I do some of in other towns where there's a road that pops up and it's got, 15, 20 homes on it.
I know, but would we recognize a single road as a
Well,
That's the
project?
question.
yeah, that's what I'm going to start looking at, trying to identify these that we can say, okay, you know what, there's not a project going on here potentially, but could we either work in some way to create a project that says, okay, we're gonna solve this
Well, I'm not saying we're gonna solve it.
creative way.
Is there a way for us to help solve it?
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah, because, that, obviously, the developer or whoever did that, gets electricity in and all that stuff. I just didn't know how to deal with
We got
things like that.
we'll take on, that looking, because that's what some of the maps we showed you come into play.
Yeah,
Right, so as we start to overlay these maps and say, okay, is there another way to look at this, step back and look at this from an overall perspective and say, okay, wait a minute, we know there's funding, it's gonna be available. How can we tie that together? And can we just at least, again, it's gonna be a moment in time, but can we try to help solve this, for the greater Hancock area? Because you've got, as we've seen, you got some really good projects that have completed, right? They're not gonna need it, like when we look at Union Rivers area. Talk to them, we got fiber everywhere. Well, we talked about with Premium Choice doing their work down in Surrey and Orland and down. Great, right? So great projects going on, right? And some really good coverage. How do we try to solve those final gaps?
and, the bigger question, are we even capable of doing?
Absolutely.
That the answer to that may be no.
Yeah, so let's identify and see what we,
Yeah.
let's identify it first so we understand what it looks like.
Do you have anything else for us, John?
I think that's it.
I think that's the case of.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Hello, Miller.
Good morning.
What have you got for us today?
A regular monthly report, and I would like to add a little bit verbally to some of that. On section A1 of roads. This has been a terrible mud season for roads. But I had two worst roads right now on Mountains Ridge Road and Nicotawas Road. There's one bad spot on Nicotawas and the problem child on Mountains Ridge Road on that hill. So been waiting for it to dry out enough, the roads to dry out enough so that we can actually do work on them. Get the frost out of the ground and get busy on them. But I'm going to take a ride around this week and look and see if we're ready to start work.
Are you gonna do the work yourself, Millard, on those two projects?
No, I think they're beyond.
Yeah, beyond your tractor.
Yes. It's going to involve somebody with dump trucks to haul material in and probably a grader. On D1 on the ambulance service, I've been talking to the Howland Fire Chief, and Howland now does transport. So it seems like we should, to him and I, it seemed to make more sense that if Howland is there anyway as emergency response, they might as well do the transport while they're right there. So we're working on changing that contract, upgrading that contract. That's just a heads up for what may be happening. The state has renewed the grant program for the ATV trails. I've talked to Acadia area ATVers, Bob Cassette, and they are going to want to approach the commissioners to do the same program we did last year. I haven't talked to the airline riders, but I suspect they will be on board too. So that will be coming up maybe at the mid-month meeting. That's all I've got.
Now, the boat launch ramp at Grand Lake, what's the delay in that progressing?
I will contact the guy from the state again. He and I met at the site. It's been quite a while before COVID hit. The issue there was how much land the state actually owned and if they could get out beyond the gut completely. And that's what he was doing, was research on trying to do a title search on what they actually owned. The tax map showed them owning out beyond the gut, and that's where I wanted to put the boat launch ramp. But he wasn't completely convinced that they owned all of that. So,
Well, Millard, why isn't removing the gut an option? Why can't that be removed?
Part of it is it's all sand, and they have dug it out, dredged it several times over the years, and it keeps filling back in. And I suppose if they dug enough, they might be able to make it work, but so far they haven't. And ideally, if they could get out, put the boat launch ramp out beyond the gut, then the gut's no longer an issue. If he ever gets that property survey done so he knows what he owns, and then we know that we're limited to being inside the gut, then we're back to trying to dredge the gut.
Who owns the existing parking lot right now next to the road?
State of Maine, Bureau of Parks and Land.
They don't, yeah, okay. Do they own all the shore property by the gut, clear out to the point?
Not all of it. They own a ways out to the gut, and then Lucky Rankin has a house out there, camp. And then the tax map shows them owning a piece that goes out around that to out beyond the gut. And that's why we was trying to figure out whether they could get out to that point or not.
Can you get an update on it and see where we're at?
I will give him a call and see what he's found out.
I'm gonna move to accept and file UT Director's monthly report as presented.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Millard.
We still have, is there We have to take an action on the Land Use Planning Commission item again.
Yes, if I could give you an update on that. That land is in the southwest corner of Fletcher's Landing Township. It abuts the city of Ellsworth and the town of Hancock. Immediately to the west is where R.F. Jordan's large gravel pit operation is. Fourth generation sand and gravel is the Elliott Jordan and Sons. These are Dwayne's boys, Brian and I forget the other boy's name. So what there's an existing 5-acre pit. This land is owned by Ursa Major, the paper company, and they lease this section from the paper company. There's an existing 5-acre pit, and they're proposing to convert about an acre of that pit to be a composting site. They're asking to create a new 10-acre gravel pit and a little bit less than 3-acre site to do stump stockpiles, and then a grinding pad to grind the stumps into compost material. This is a local business with a long-standing history in this area.
So this is the same one that we did last month, right? It's just
Yes.
there's issue with the application.
Yes,
And so we can just continue with the no comment that we did from our previous, is that
if,
right?
if you would like, you could offer support.
That existing 5-acre pit, Millard, is that the one? Can't seem to figure out where this land is.
Well, I haven't driven in there yet. I'm not sure whether this is the old Chippy Wyman pit or whether it's in beyond that.
You know the one Ken Dugas has access to? You know which one that is?
No,
No. How far is the access to this pit from the Ellsworth number 8 line?
Half a mile maybe. It's not far.
So it's just through the village by the boat launch up on the
So
right.
it's got to be before you get to the boat launch.
Or the village then.
Maybe in behind where Skip Grenville's shop was. It would be before you get to Rodney Moon's stump dump.
Oh, I don't know.
Have we been asked by anybody to support this, or we've received no correspondence on this, right?
No, we haven't.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, I mean, I'm not opposed to offering support or no comment, but I'm wondering if there's any reason to take any action on it at all when
I feel like that's what we did last time when we submitted the document with no comment. We just essentially had no comment on it. Proceed.
yeah.
Listen, it's a pretty straightforward process, right, Millard? I mean, they're just going through, we've just been, as a courtesy, given the opportunity to comment, right?
Yes.
So what are we inclined to do? Offer support or no comment?
No, I mean, I don't think there's any need of it. I mean,
Yeah, that's the
Dwayne
way,
and his crew haven't asked us to support.
that's the way I feel.
There's no reason to believe that there's an issue here, right, Millard?
Shouldn't be. Nothing that I'm aware of.
I think it's just a case of process says that we have an opportunity to weigh in if we want to.
Yeah,
But
so
honestly, we don't want
Yeah, so I don't think there's any need for any action.
No, I think Joe's right.
Consensus,
You
submit, no
may,
comment.
Scott, is there, you see?
But you're not gonna respond at all?
Well, a response
Is
is
there-
we have no comment.
That's what you want, is, yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
You want to respond, no comment.
Yeah.
But respond
Yeah,
back,
we have
no
no
comment.
comment.
Consensus.
Let them know that we have discussed it and we have no comment.
Anything else, Millard?
That's it.
All right,
Thank you, commissioners.
very much.
Thank you.
Am I working with your grandson now, Millard? Is that who I'm working with?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he's a good kid,
Thank you.
hard worker. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Get the airport up.
Yep.
How are you doing today?
Good, good. So you got the monthly report, I guess. Any questions on that?
Oh, I'm gonna move to accept and file airport manager's monthly report as presented.
Second motion?
Any other comments before we start looking at our awarding of the contracts and that?
No, I've got nothing.
Call the vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, start doing.
All right, so all the rest of this is all due to the culvert project that we've got.
Yeah.
It's just filling in the blanks of the bid,
Yeah.
the grant application and letters to the FAA.
Okay, so I'm gonna move to approve and award the contract to Gordon Contracting of Sangerville, Maine for phase 2 drainage repair in the amount of $317,897. And for the chair to sign when the contract is finalized.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We mentioned it earlier, though. Any idea why we only got one bid on this?
I think it was the same story that Mr. Sealander was talking about, it's just one of the comments from, I think it was Sargent, was they felt they could make more money on other projects. So,
Are you familiar with it, Gordon Contractor?
no, I went online though, and it looks like they have done some airport work down in Portland. I want to say maybe up in the Rangeley area. They have done some airport work. So it looked like it's some pretty big projects.
What makes this project, I mean, we said airport projects, there's nothing really airport about this. I mean, it's just a regular, straightforward project, right?
Right, exactly. The only issue with this project really is the depth of that culvert. The thing, I think they're talking, it's in the vicinity of 30 feet down in one spot. So there's some.
The only airports out of this is just understanding the protocol for being on airports, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's, safety area issues. Of course, the runway will be, part of the runway will be shut down while they're working in that safety area. We got them to displace the threshold a little bit on the 2-2 end. And I did ask them to light it because they was gonna shut the whole runway down at night. And I asked them that I really didn't see that was being an option. So they got to put some temporary lighting out there so we can at least have, I think it was right around 4,000 feet on the runway versus 5,200. And it'll be open day and night.
Do we have it when the project started?
We're looking at just after mid-October. So we're trying to get it started after the Cape Air schedule kicks back to 3 flights a day. And that was the other reason for the lighting is Cape Air's later flight, as the days start to get shorter, it possibly could conflict with that flight. So I wanted to make sure, and the other side of that is, life flight still comes and goes, could come and go all hours of night. So I wanted to keep the airport available.
Okay, next item is, I'm gonna move to approve the grant application for phase 2 drainage repair and for the chair to sign.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next one is, I'm gonna move to approve the contract with Jacobs Engineering for the engineering for phase 2 drainage repairs in the amount of $104,632.04 for the chair to sign.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The last one is the letter. I'm gonna move to approve the recommendation letter to Sean Tini of Tini FAA Airports Division and for the airport manager to sign.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So the interesting part of this project, it actually came in under what Jacobs thought what their estimate was. So it was, yeah, there was really no rhyme or reason why there wasn't other bidders. I think there was like 6 bidders on the list for the pre-bid meeting, and only one came through, and it was under the Jacobs estimate.
Anything else, Leroy?
Oh, that's it for me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
Boy, those airport documents are long.
Yeah.
Like a quick button to get through that, all that on our.
Yeah, wait till you sign the, well, important.
I know, I saw that. Yeah.
91 pages.
Yeah.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
First, A, signing of the town contract for Stonington for 2022. I believe you have a copy of that. The only change in that is that the hourly rate went up to $66. That's an increase of $2 an hour. Still the 24 hours that we've had for several years. Requesting that approve and sign that.
Move to sign the law enforcement contract with the town of Stonington as presented.
I'll second.
Discussion?
When did the other one expire?
The end of December of last year. This runs calendar year.
Calendar year?
Yes.
You know, the hard, cold truth of the matter, Scott, is, and I'm sure you had to consider this, is that, and you have right now, two vacancies you're trying to fill, is that correct?
Yeah, we have more than that, but yes, that's right.
Well, we've lost Jeff, we terminated another one, and I think we have a
We
new
lost a
hire.
deputy. We haven't hired any. We have 2 in the pipeline that hopefully the next meeting we'll have asked for approval for.
I guess my point is that if and when it's just not there, you can't find it and whatnot, contracts are gonna have to be the first thing to
Oh,
go.
I'm well aware of that.
Okay,
I'm well aware of that. You
so,
know, we have one now on Swan's Island, and Rob Moran, Deputy Moran came off the island, and that's gonna be very difficult to fill. Not everybody wants to go out and live on an island.
back into the regular.
He is,
patrol.
he's filled back in, and the cadets that are in the academy are entering week 12. So we should have them back by the first part of June. Their graduation date is May 20th.
So we may not even fill Swan's Island.
That would be, Commissioner, that'd be an ideal spot for someone that was retired, that was in law enforcement to go out there. That would be a outstanding, great place to be, but we may not be able to. What we're looking at for possibilities when we get the cadets out of the academy and get a couple more hires on is that we'll assign a deputy out there for a day or two to just help them. And we've had communications with them out there, and they're well aware of the situation that we're in and how difficult it is to fill positions.
Geez, I can think of a good candidate for that.
Don't be looking at you.
Raise your right hand. You can't.
Retirement.
Before November, right?
Son, I'm gonna be a president.
I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time on Swan's Island and I love the place. It's a great place to visit. I'm not gonna work up there.
I just can't wrap my head around relying on a boat to go somewhere. That's not my makeup, but I agree with you. I spend a lot of time out there doing dare and projects out there, absolutely. great group of people, great place.
I was good friends with the boat captain there for several years and stayed in his place for
Yep.
a number of times.
Yep.
Just a short 5-year up there one year.
He had career change.
Yeah.
We went out and played basketball. Was it 9 or 10 of us stayed at the apartment that night? It was a little crowded, but
Didn't we have fun?
we certainly did.
All right, I'm gonna call the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, B, cruiser update. I was notified by Leo down to Quirk that General Motors has notified him that May 5th, they'll be able to start placing orders for police package Tahoes. And I spoke to PJ and he confirmed that. What I'm hearing from Leo is that he's not gonna be allowed to stock any. In other words, in all his career, he's been able to order, say, 100 vehicles and have them on the lot. If someone needed one, you could go buy it from him. But now they literally have to be sold and you have to show that they are sold to Hancock County or Foxport or wherever. So what I'm asking is they're gonna be 2023s. My bid that went out that we accepted were 2022s. And so do we want to rebid those? I still have money and had budgeted for 4 and were able to get 2. Do we want to rebid that, gentlemen? How do you want to do that? Or do you want to just?
My sense was that we gave you the authority to buy a new vehicle. I mean, if you could find a leftover 21,
We did. That's what those were.
same difference. I mean, no, I don't think that's necessary. But my question is though, if it's available to Leo, it's available to Peach.
It is. And I've had a conversation. I said, I'd let him know how we're going to handle this to give him the same opportunity that Leo would.
So we just need to reaffirm that we're going to accept bids anytime now, correct?
Yeah, as long as you folks are good with it, I'll tell them that when you get your prices together, send them to me and we'll go from there.
You're asking for 2 more.
2 more, that's it, that I do have the money in the budget for those.
Well, yeah, but didn't we take action to allow him to go out to bid?
Yeah, he specifically asked for 22s and he's going to have to bid 23s. I say that's insignificant.
As long as you folks are fine with it, I'm good with it.
You okay, John?
Is there a reason not to be? I don't see it.
The real action here is the purchase.
Yeah.
So at some point we'll approve that. I don't think.
And the same people that I put the bids out to are gonna have the same opportunity to put bids out for these vehicles. So,
So is it just that they're able to place orders? At that point, it doesn't mean no guarantee of how long it's gonna take.
well, I'm under the impression, talking to Leo, that yes, if you place an order, you're going to get them.
But what do you think the time, I'm just curious, what do you think that?
8 to 12 weeks is what they told me before, but that was in December of 2021. And so if you folks would, we'll proceed.
So it'll be long after Labor Day before we even see them if you.
Possibly, and Fords, and as a matter of fact, we're bringing our Fords back for recalls now. We brought 2 back yesterday, we're gonna bring 2 back today, for recalls and problems. Those are non-existent as well. I talked with Sheriff Curtis down in Washington County. He's been halfway across the country trying to find cruises. He can't find anything. So this is light at the end of the tunnel. If GM is going to accept orders, then that's way ahead of where we've been for over a year. So we're all good?
Yep.
Thank you. Last one I have, you should have a document that I submitted. We have finally come to the end of brown, being able to get brown, the color that we wear. Talking to Pat again this morning, I think Commissioner Clark, you remember the headaches of trying to find brown.
Keep the same color.
Yeah, there are parts and pieces that they are eliminating that we currently wear. One of them that's obviously very important is the outer vest that carries our bulletproof vest. We can no longer order those or get those. And I suspect by talking to our vendor that it may be next month we can't get pants, or the week after we can't get this and that. So unfortunately, we're looking at changing colors. And if you look at the manufacturers, realistically, blue, black, and green, believe it or not, are the 3 primary colors that seem to be the most popular countrywide. And I have a sample for a fashion show for you. This is the green and the uniform that we would be looking at. We put this down with the patrolmen, gave them the opportunity to look at black and green. We didn't want blue for obvious reasons. And this is what they decided that they like. This carry-on, this vest is different than what we traditionally wear. This is a load-bearing vest. And what this does is allow the deputy to take a lot of the items off their gun belt and put them on the vest themselves. And these load-bearing, it takes the weight, and it's uncomfortable. If you've ever been around police officers very long, they're always pulling their gun belts up, or at least I am anyways. Because they have, there's a lot of equipment, a lot of things on them. What we would do, if we go to these vests, is they probably would have just their taser and their firearm on the gun belt, and the rest of the items would go, their radio or something. I was thinking this morning coming over, I'm not on the road anymore, but on my gun belt, starting going around, my handcuffs, my pistol, my asp, my pepper spray, my tourniquet, another pair of handcuffs, and my magazines. Now, I'm kind of round in the middle, so I may have a little more room on my gun belt than the average deputy has, but this will allow them to put those items on there. So what the problem is, we did not know this was going to be a problem when we submitted our budget in August of last year. So I think if you look at the figures that I have submitted to you, we have $12,957.10 in our uniform account. And what I'm asking for is also to use in a reserve account, a G account, money that has been in there for many, many years. It's account G3021-80, SO forfeiture. And I think many, many years ago, I think that was a forfeiture that Commissioner Clark that you used for, I think we did some repair in that detective's office. And this is the remainder. It's been there for years. So I'm asking to utilize those funds in the amount of $3,205.22, which gives us a total that we would have $16,162.32. Still leaves us $7,003.68 short. What I'm asking for is permission to overspend that amount so that we can make this transfer, get some uniforms, and get moving along. Now, obviously, it's going to make that account look ugly, but if you look at some of the other accounts, Commissioner Clark just cited being shorthanded, in the payroll line alone, we've gone 3 months with 4 people missing. So we easily balance that out.
Well, that's $7,000. That's 7 offices.
7 offices.
Uh,
Well, we've got 22 total we have to
Yeah,
outfit.
no, I'm saying that would outfit 7 offices.
Yeah, I think that's what the numbers were.
$1,053 each.
I think it's what it was. Yep.
And I'm looking at your letter.
Excuse me, yes. We utilize the jackets that we have, they're black, so we utilize those and whatever we can, obviously, the gun belts and all of that stuff. That's where we're at.
Well, what I'm just wondering is that can you order enough right now for 15, knowing that, you must be including all of it failed. You must be including the 3 or 4 vacancies you have. You must be including.
Right, buy them all at once. Because,
Now, I know you are. I'm saying, what if you didn't buy them all at once? If you reserve 7 more uniforms for next year out of the budget?
I'm hoping to fill those positions between now and then. As I said, I'm gonna come to you to the next meeting to approve.
So is the pricing that they're giving you, is it contingent upon a certain number of uniforms to get that price?
They didn't express that to us, Commissioner. And we've traditionally, because of lack of vendors in the state, bought them from a dealer in Scarborough. And there's now one in Bangor, and we've had communications with them, and they would match any pricing that we're getting down there. So we could look at doing that. And the good part, if it is in Bangor, we don't have to run all the way to Scarborough to get something. And they're inventorying a fair amount of things. So,
My guess is that you wouldn't be buying uniforms for somebody that doesn't exist, because it wouldn't fit him. And
correct.
it would just be money left in that account because he didn't spend it. So I don't see a material difference. So I'm gonna move to approve funding request of $23,166. New Sheriff's Department uniforms as requested. $12,957.10 coming from the 2022 uniforms account. $3,205.22 coming from G account 3021-80 Sheriff's Office forfeiture account, thus causing overspending account 10-100 uniforms by $7,068. I'll have trouble with this.
No, so-
I'll second that discussion.
Well, the problem I have with this is this is the kind of action that we should be contemplating, on Labor Day. Once again, here we are faced within 3 months with new budget and whatnot, and this isn't, they didn't do away with brown uniforms yesterday. I mean, brown uniforms has been a problem now for a long time. And Scott, this is the kind of thing that I'd love to have seen prepared for in the budget, for this year and whatnot. And
Well, nobody could foresee it. We were getting those things, and one of the items we cannot get, that I've already said, is the carriers for the bulletproof vests. And we don't have to spend all this money at this time. It just gives the authorization to do so if I fill those positions. So that I don't have to come back again and say, okay, I've hired 2 more people, can I have some more money? This is what we estimate it is. We'll make those adjustments in the budget next year. Hopefully our budget line for uniforms will be down. Obviously, because we'll have all new uniforms. We may have to get a piece, something here or there, but certainly nothing to the magnitude of what this request is.
And that right there is the reason for my motion, is that this has got to decrease next year because everybody's got new uniforms. And you haven't done a wholesale change, I guess, is it?
Oh, wow. We've always had brown. We changed to these. Gosh, Commissioner, I don't know how many years ago. We used to have the tan pants with a stripe down the leg and the dark brown shirt. But
well, I mean, in less than 8 years, he's completely outfitted his entire staff in there with Class A uniforms and with duty uniforms. So this isn't unprecedented. I mean, since 2014, if you replace the Class A's with all the.
yeah, 14 or 15, whatever it was. Yep.
What you have a suggestion is, how are we going to cover the $7,000 overdraft? I mean, you propose that.
I would say if the sheriff and his department watches the budget, that I think he's correct. Personnel alone will probably take care of that. Again, we had talked earlier about, or in my notes I mentioned about paying for the cars through ARPA. And we can move what we currently have out of there. So, I mean, there's a nice chunk to go towards that, covering that 421. That's my only concern, is covering the 421, but 7,000 isn't going to make a difference here or there. And for me, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to order them all at once. I mean, you're either going to do it or you're not. So.
The question is, we're not really, so Chef, you're not really ordering all of them at once because it's kind of like Paul said, and you don't know the size and fit of each.
Exactly. I would anticipate is someone from whichever the two we decide to purchase them from. Just like when we get new bulletproof vests, they send a representative down and measure everybody and make sure that they fit. Those kinds of things. And again, I'm not up to full staff, so obviously I'm not going to just buy uniforms to put in the back closet. And if they fit somebody my size, okay, then I need somebody that's 6'6", they're not going to fit me either. So it's just asking for the authorization to spend up to that much.
But the duty vest and whatnot is not because of the brown. This is just a timely.
The brown that we're wearing now is a different style than this. It is.
But it's not necessary to buy a new duty vest just because you're changing colors in your uniform, correct?
We're not going, this is the style vest that we now wear.
Yeah, but the the ballistic vest that you're putting over that. You're replacing that too?
No, on ballistic vests, the panels come out of those and go into these vests. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the black thing there, what do you call that?
This is a weight-bearing outer carrier.
You're buying those new?
Correct. And the thought process of going to black is you can buy anything in black.
I know, my point is that you don't need the weight carrying vest because of the color change. You could continue to use the vest you have now.
Well, they're wearing out. That's why we're looking at changing the color. We can't get the brown.
They didn't wear out yesterday.
Commissioner, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. And the frustration is,
My frustration is that you're making a mockery out of the budget. We put together a budget and ask you to live with your budget. You walk in and say, to hell with my budget, I want to spend 7,000 more than I budgeted. And what's the sense of having a budget if you're not going to live with your budget?
I'm offended by that. I don't think we make a mockery of our budget. I said, this is my 8th year. We've never had a problem with my budget. When a major project like this comes up, yes, I will come to you and have a conversation with you about it. And that's exactly what this is. If I could get the parts and pieces, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The $12,970 that we have in there would be more than sufficient, but we have to make a wholesale change.
So, as I understand, I'm fairly new, I've been through one budget cycle. So overspending in this budget, in this line item, causes him to find it somewhere else, I'm assuming. So he is not blowing his budget. He's, maybe one line is under and one line is over. That's how I assume it work, is that?
And that's exactly what happens in September, October, November. Department head comes to us and said, I didn't budget enough in this line, but I have some money left over in this one. All we got right now is a hope and a promise. Because who the hell knows what's going to happen in the next 9 months if the sheriff's department with that budget? And that's why this type of situation, for me, is distressing in April, and it should be occurring in October, November, when nobody had a crystal ball and knew how much money they needed. That crystal ball was a lot bigger last December than it is October.
How much do we budget in that line?
13,000.
13,000.
Yeah, I think this year's 14 uniforms. 14 typically spend 12, 2.5 over 5-year average. Here's another suggestion while I'm throwing it in there. At the end of the year, as you know, you have an opportunity to review 70 series transfers. So if this amount isn't covered by then, if you choose to do something different with vehicles, that's substantial, but you have $1,000 towards a copier, 18,000 towards officer buyout, 6,500 in firearm. There's also the option of looking at other reserves if that was an issue. If you're just looking to cover the 7,000.
That in past budgets, we've been instructed to overdraw that line instead of transferring money into there so that we can go back in 2 years and say, gee whiz, we overdrew that line. Why did we do that? We can identify it. I think you remember some of those conversations, and that's why we've done that.
All right, I'll call it vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm opposed.
All good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Scott, you're gonna handle beach requests, correct?
Yep, yeah, unless you have any specific questions. I think you have my note and my agreement with the registrar's approach to this. Again, it's I believe it's a new three-year agreement with a very specific and identified out clause. For me, what that does is that allows options for the two concerns. One is that not really happy with the new vendor. That's been communicated, promises made to fix it. Again, let's give them a year to try. And one of the biggest issues in talking with the registrar is, as you know, she's had some new staffing come aboard. There's potential of some changes as well, or additions. It's really not a good time for her to change her software. In hindsight, in 2020, probably wouldn't have got through this, but
So we approved a 3-year contract with the idea that we may terminate it in a year. Is that what we're
Yes.
doing?
or two, or whenever,
Right, yeah, she may.
anytime in that.
That's the other option. It may work a year from now, still not ready, but at least that's why the 3-year contract with the buyout gives her options. So you don't come back in a year and have to redo this.
Yeah, and my thinking is, if it's a bad time to change, then bad time to change.
That's really my concern in talking with her, yeah.
So I'm gonna move to approve and sign the 3-year land record cycle, excuse me, land records life cycle extension as presented and recommended.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna approve it. I just wondering, what did you say? The contract was Fiddler, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we didn't specify Fiddler in.
Well, it's titled the land records life cycle
It's
extension.
Fiddler's. it's
How about I
Fiddler's.
say with Fiddler?
I think that's important. Anybody could have a 3-year land, right?
Well, yeah, but it wouldn't be presented, but I'll say with Fiddler. How's that?
Sounds good.
I approve.
Bob,
No, it's an E.
Email, yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your kindnesses earlier in the recognition. It's much appreciated. First order of business for us this morning is I'd like to introduce Henry Ombre to you, new Deputy Director. I don't know whether it's a good thing or bad, but you go up next to Tim Richardson. I didn't know that before we hired him.
Arjun Richardson.
Arjun Richardson.
Really? Oh, you're from up there?
My dad is land, but.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, I'm in Charleston.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Or your neighbors, the Jim.
Yeah, right, I can walk through, right through my backyard, my parents' house, and walk right
Are you
there.
shooting his deer, okay?
Shooting on.
He's shooting yours.
Have you gotten into his new camp yet, or
No, that's right,
is that right out there? Is
it's
it?
right in front of my parents' house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I knew where it was somewhat located, but yeah, cool.
So shortly after our hiring committee decided on Henry, I shared his credentials with you and his background, so I know you're familiar with his past accomplishments, and he's come back 7 days in a row now, so we're off to a good start. Thank you. Have a seat. The draft document that I've shared with you is in support of the application package I'm putting together that is due on Friday for congression to be considered for congressional directed funding, earmark funding through Senator Collins' office. And while all the publicity and media and so on has been through Senator King's offering these monies, is Senator Collins who's reached out and has offered to sponsor a potential application from us. So I shared some prior information with you electronically back last week, late last week. I'm required to provide at least 3 letters of support. And I thought first and foremost, one should be from you, the county commissioners, to show that you support and endorse the initiative of the application. So I've prepared this draft. I would ask you to accept it as a draft, but I do have a Friday deadline, so we could finalize this sooner rather than later. I'd be appreciative if we're going to go forward with the application. Commissioner?
Because I think I might be aware of more of the details here than the other two, but just wondered if they need more background information, if what this is and what we're looking at.
Yes, sir.
In your memo, you talked about a dollar amount, looked to us for a direction, but I'm gonna throw it back because I don't even.
So that has congealed more.
And I am prepared with the dollar amount now, the finite dollar amount.
What is that?
$2.6 million.
Thank you.
And all of that available, or is there a match?
That still remains to be seen. And
Yeah.
it still remains to be seen if emergency management is even going to be designated by Congress.
Yeah, it's gotta go through the whole markup and.
It is as speculative as can be. It's the equivalent of buying a Powerball ticket at this point.
So there was some talk of being perhaps more ready than we were when we first knew about this and whatnot. Are we gonna have to take some steps to get?
I've spent the last week taking those steps, and I'm comfortable that we would have an adequate application package to submit by Friday. That will serve us in that part of the process.
Well, I don't see any downsides, gentlemen. At any point we pull the plug on this project, walk away from it, I guess. We're not committing any funds today and
No, this is just getting us in line. I've seen similar or participated in similar endeavors. You never know what's gonna happen, but the only way to find, the only way to get in the pipeline is exactly what the director is asking us to do. So I've prepared a motion, just like to make sure I cover all the bases. Move to proceed with submitting an application through Senator Collins' office for congressional designated funding in the amount of $2.6 million for a new county emergency management operations center / EMA office, and to send a letter of support from the county commission as presented.
I guess the only problem I have is that it really isn't going through Susan's office. It's the letter. Is it going through her office?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, so her office has offered to sponsor our application.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's even better.
yeah, it's very,
Yep.
Kind of like a little sport barrel for them or spending account or.
And specifically, that's Carol Woodcock,
Yeah.
Chief of Staff in Bangor.
And so based upon that, I would second the motion.
she's a wonderful lady to work with.
She's been very accommodating, given the timeline.
Briefly.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you for this draft.
Thank you very much. I've also reached out to Chief Gagan in Bucksport, who serves as the District 7 Law Enforcement Chair, which encompasses all of Hancock County and most of Washington County. And Tom Morris, who's the president of the Hancock County Firefighters Association. And because of me, I also asked for a letter from Governor Mill's office, but I don't know if that's likely to materialize, but I figured why not. So if you don't mind, I'll prepare a final version of this and ask for you to sign it. I'll bring it right up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, we wish you the best.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Yeah, transfer request for computer. For some computers,
Yeah,
equipment, is that right?
computer, that's 5 computers.
Okay, I'm gonna move to approve the transfer of funds. I hope I'm not stepping on presentation or anything.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm gonna move to approve the transfer of funds request as presented and recommend, excuse me, and recommended. I'm gonna start over. Move to approve the transfer of funds request as presented and recommended to facilitate the purchase of computers in the district attorney's office.
Second the motion.
So these are already, did we have this budget? This was budgeted correctly here, am I right? And we had enough money in the budget for this to begin with? How I'm interpreting it.
No, that's why well, kind of sort of, those 70 series accounts, of course, that money gets set aside each year and goes into this G account. And I think what you're asking is what's also in development, working with Michelle Monica worked together on a sort of a capital improvement plan or a capital projects plan. So that a little more advanced notice that this is coming forward and planning and recognized at budget time.
So What's the cost of the new computers, Michelle?
Oh, we'll actually get a discount rate. At this point, what I have for each computer is $1,050 for the standard computers. And then they're also getting there's a Surface Pro that the attorneys use, which is a higher fee. It's $1,200, plus there's different accessories that go with those. And we're also getting 2 monitors.
So what's the total cost of the project purchase? We have that itemized here?
Well, you'd have to take that spreadsheet.
What was the total of the computer purchase? You know, it's over 7,000. I have Washington counties included, so I can just deduct that real fast. Yes, $7,069.
$7,069.
Right.
And that's the. Okay, and this purchase is being made from the state,
From me, that's, yes, or
from what?
Maine DA Tech. They provide all the computers for the DA offices and they
Okay.
do all the upkeep and maintain our programs because we have a specialized program.
So they qualify as the sole source for this. We don't have to go to bid on this. Okay. And we're transferring 3,000 into the reserve account. I don't understand what that is, Scott.
Do you want to tackle it? So I'm questioning the 7,000. I hate to throw that monkey wrench in because I thought it was 5. Because the transfer is 3 and it's supposed to include the 2,000 from the line item. So line item 70-200 has $2,000 in it. And we're going to use that in addition to moving 3,000 over into the revenue side so if you spent the 5 out of that 70-200 line, it's going to be overdrawn. But bringing in the 3 on the other side balances it. That way, instead of spending directly from the G accounts, this is what we've been doing.
Well, you certainly have sufficient funds in her tech account, 70 account. Well, the 3,012-50, that's 15,000, right?
Oh, yeah, but we're not taking all of that.
Nevertheless,
Okay.
you could have taken 5 out of that and covered the full cost, correct?
If it's 7,000.
Yeah.
If it's 7,000, well, that's what should have happened. That's what it's there for, isn't it? Tech account is there for these kind of purchases.
Where's the other 2,000 coming out?
We originally thought the total purchase price was gonna be close to 5,000. Was my understanding. So that's why we had 2,000 already in there and we were moving just 3.
But what's that 2,000 is in which account?
Is in the tech account.
The regular budget, DA's regular budget account.
Okay.
It's got 2,000.
This is the G account. This is the capital, you call it. The G account is the capital, is the savings account for tech,
That's where we're taking the
Yeah.
3 from.
which makes sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense now though, because she needs 7, not 5. We should have had a transfer for 5,000 from the tech account. She only got 2,000 in there, and if her math is correct, she needs 7,000, not 5,000. So bottom line is that they need to take this back and bring us back another a $5,000 transfer if the cost is 7,000. I don't know how else we want to do this.
So it's the 2,000 that we're talking about, is that sitting in like an IT line or something?
It's just a regular budget account. What's the budget account for 2,000 is in?
70-200.
70, it's a 70, yeah. So it's in the budget
We'll have to
capital
present
account,
you.
and not in the G account.
I got it coming up to 4,800 according to the sheet on here. Sure.
my order, me that take off two of these to do 15 try. Great, sorry.
Okay, no, so at this point, I think the commissioner is correct. We need to go back and redo this.
Is this a purchase you need to make soon, Michelle? You need to pay for soon?
I'm not sure when the bill will come in. We had to make, because they only do orders spring and fall. And so to get in on the group order, because all the DA offices order at the same time to get a reduced rate. So we did have to order. So I'm not sure when the bill will come in.
Well, in my mind, it's very appropriate to take the 5,000 from your tech account. That's what it's there for. That's your savings account for your technical. And so it's just a matter of us getting transfer sheet to sign, but I think you have support from the board. Just get us the transfer. And we'll sign it. So if you can wait for another 2 weeks, get us in. I don't think you can get that today.
Well, if we transfer the 3,000 now, and it is 5,000, problem solved, you can do it. If it's 7, then they gotta come back with another transfer.
I think Scott, Michelle, both agreed now it's 7.
That list is different than what I've seen before. So, or it appears to be, I am,
Just to keep it clean, I
Yeah.
think it's better to do
Yep.
a transfer.
Yep.
Keep it.
All at once.
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't we will get the transfer at the next meeting.
Just give us the $5,000 transfer and you're good to go. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Seems like it'd be difficult today, right?
Sorry. Dennis?
Morning. Good morning.
Any questions with respect to the monthly report?
How are you going to manage your summer maintenance, outside maintenance? Contract again?
We're gonna try to do it with the staff that we have. Okay, so you'll see him introducing a part-timer today, and part of the plan is to, if he's available to do some yard work for us. And if it looks like it's becoming overwhelming, a lot of it's will be predicated by what happens with our job out here and that kind of, the kind of resources that draws on. So-
You and I talked about this, but a couple of years ago, and I don't know why this happened, but I brought some inmates down and we mowed the courthouse complex.
Right.
One weekend and whatnot. And I was able to do all of that except for what's in front of the courthouse above the thing with a zero-turn lawnmower.
So,
And I personally would entertain, if that would help your staff in getting that done easier and faster, I'd entertain, some effort to get it. I'll leave it up to you, but I'm just telling you that.
it cuts the time and, yeah,
Go ahead.
in half at least. So it's something that might be a viable solution to our, I appreciate the suggestion.
Well, rather than spending money for a contractor to come in that you're never gonna get back, if you could invest it in a piece of equipment that you'd have for years to come,
Right.
just consider that.
Yeah, well, yeah, great suggestion. But, yeah, I think we're gonna try to do it ourselves.
Your last item though said that the old jail's continuing to spit bricks out, is it?
Yeah, I'm still getting a few falling here and there.
We knew that was gonna be a problem with heating and, warming and cooling.
I didn't take pictures this morning, I'm sure Dave did, but last night we had a frost and a freeze, so. Did it spit, and the end ones are kind of teetering, but now the ones 2 courses in are tumbling forward and then making their way out. So, every day is there a brick? No, but every week, yes.
And you haven't seen any reason why our retaining walls aren't working.
No, working well. And, it seems like the Historical Society really is not well suited to make, quick responses to a situation like this. So you know, it's been a real benefit to them. I mean, it's their deal, but also the point that I focus on is that every brick that falls out of their building lands on our property. So, you know, it's, we'll see what happens.
Scott, did they acknowledge that they received the invoice on our barricades, Jersey barriers?
Yeah, I didn't get an acknowledgement. I guess it appeared Dennis did.
Yeah.
That was the issue, was that I had sent him a copy of our bill from American Concrete that detailed what they owed. And then I think he reached back out to Dennis, and curious about an invoice. So I had Dennis talk to the ladies, Pam and Monica, and an invoice was sent from the county. I think that was the issue, to pay the county just for that portion.
And Miller thought that he could use those Jersey barriers sometime in the.
He did, yes, yeah.
So we're gonna take the balance out of his UT account?
I'm not sure how that,
Look, I see finance knowing that.
yeah,
Yeah, balance was,
yes, that was the plan, but
That's what it looks like, yeah, okay.
and I think that if anything happens with their project over the course of this summer, I don't know, you know, we have our own concerns for what's gonna happen this summer. I don't know if those two jobs could coincide or happen simultaneously.
Oh, and this-
It's just, you know.
I mean, we heard
so-
Mike say this morning that they're gonna have to shut the entrance off, so it means the exit, it's gonna be the
Right.
entrance and exit. That's the side that they want to start on first,
Right.
and so, no.
Well, they can't do anything without utilizing our property, so it has to,
Very true.
involve us.
Yeah, if they did, the staging they put up would be on county property.
Yeah, we can.
And the materials that they source and stage here would be on county property. A dumpster or whatever, or porta potty or anything else they decided they needed, you know, unless you can fit it on that hot top strip, it's gonna be on county property.
Okay, so I'm gonna move to accept and file facility director's report as presented in this memo dated March 30th.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item was, I'm gonna move to remove Justin Foggingham from the county payroll as requested.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just jump ahead, or did you wanna?
Request approval to hire Damian Abraham of Hancock as part-time janitor at grade step 5A, effective April 9, 2022, not to exceed 29 hours per week.
That's so moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else for us?
Well, I have here is SO ramp update, although it sounds like you guys are pretty good with that, so.
How do you feel about it?
I feel good about it. We're gonna see what happens end of the month, I guess.
Yeah.
Plan holders, I don't have a list yet, but they've only been available for a day. We're published in a couple of papers. Each one is uploading that to New England Construction Clearinghouses, so everyone in the New England ought to at least be able to be aware that it's happening and get a bid out as they can. I'm going to send it directly to a few local people that have worked well for us in the past to make sure they lay eyes on it, and we'll see what kind of response we get.
I don't want to respond, I'm just curious if between, discussing between you and Mike, if you had a ballpark figure the back this behind.
Of the amount, no,
Okay. I don't want
No.
to manage the process, but I'm just curious if Mike.
typically they would submit an estimate, and that's usually part of the production process. But I haven't heard a thing so far. I mean, you can ask him, but you know, he'd just be throwing a number at it, I think, same as anyone else.
This is not like building you per square foot.
No, really, a landscaping job. You know, it's a very elaborate, complicated landscaping job. So see what happens. And I just want to add, I've mentioned in my report, our duct cleaning job is underway. They're on site yesterday and today, scrubbing out those ducts and cleaning them. We've got to get some photographs for you to see before and after what's been done, but it's really, what we're discovering is necessary, well needed, yeah. And let's see, Simplex here today. A lot's going on.
Thank you. All right, Bob, now it's your turn. All right, sorry.
No problem.
Too many copies of the agenda in front of me. Flipping through the books. All right.
I'm very much. Good morning. All numbers are starting to creep up just a little bit. Start swinging into the beginning of spring and tour season. I expect they'll probably jump pretty high here throughout the month. Things are drying out, so wildland fire season is rapidly approaching. That's usually this time of our downstairs. Nothing really major to report this month. The crisis management project is moving into a working group committee for a report next year, so we've got a little breathing room. I did have one counselor reach out, private practice counselor that's very interested in the project. I kind of pointed her in the direction of, hey, they'd love to have you participate with your ideas. She was kind of looking to do a local Hancock County-wide. She wasn't really aware of the other projects. So hey, talk to these folks. So she said she would, so hopefully she'll provide some input to them on how to proceed, because the rest of us really don't know. Other than that, really, we had one incident. I want to bring your attention. A couple Saturdays ago, we had a gentleman go through the ice in Bucksport. Our dispatch staff rose to the top again and supported Bucksport's dispatcher with many of those dispatch functions because she was rapidly overwhelmed. Our folks got WHLA, happened to be my department, rolling fast. The gentleman was successfully retrieved from the lake after some hard work on the fire department side. But, it worked out really, really well. That was a very busy afternoon for dispatch. They also had an explosion. Gentleman started a brush pile with a couple of gallons of gas and a big lighter. So they got with that. They had several big incidents within a couple of minutes of each other. So they were very, very busy. Emily has moved into that shift, helping him out now. So that's been a tremendous help already. And she's been with us just a little over a week, and she's already answering calls and doing dispatch stuff. So we're very pleased, and that'll bring them a little bit of relief as we get a little busier. So, any questions on the report?
Oh, I'm gonna move to accept and file our RCC director's report as presented.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm responding to discussion. So I've reached out to the company. They've provided a couple different levels of quotes. Talked to Scott a little bit about the, I asked them for a couple different numbers, which we kind of came to the conclusion that an all-inclusive number was probably most appropriate since we were supporting the other agencies through other means, through the Fire Association, et cetera. I know there were a few questions on there's Spillman and stuff like that. I talked to Raleigh last night a little bit just to clarify that there is, with the new download, there is a method of gathering the information that responders use. It's the one that's in Spillman is more guided to a law enforcement. And that seems to be, I know there's been some resistance from a couple, not resistance, commentary from a couple of the law enforcement agencies that there's a method that's Spillman already. There is, however, it's not the delivery method of these text messages. We currently, 6 or 7 years ago, when we brought this rip and run and rapid notification programs on board with Spillman, it extrapolates the data for the calls, but it's not the method of delivery. So what they did is Jason went out and looked at what there was out there for possibilities to get, these text messages to responders. And they came up with a free program through Google Groups. That has been a nightmare for maintenance. Each time that a responder changes the phone number or department adds a member or deletes a member, that requires our IT person to go in and manually manage that. Actually, I had an email yesterday that Chuck got from one of the agencies. These people have a phone that isn't on the list. So Chuck's had to go through and investigate how to deliver these messages. So it's been a management nightmare, because for a while there, it was all the time. The law enforcement side, you have a finite number of, the sheriff's office has 21 members, RLPD has that. The fire department side of it is complete nightmare. There's 300 or 400 firefighters in Hancock County, all getting text messages one way or another. Departments are adding and subtracting members all the time. I know for my department, every month we have a new person that we've got to add to this system. The iron responding side of it, it's a one. Trying to explain this so it's not. I see it in my head. I'm trying to explain it so that it makes sense to you. It's the current system we have. Chuck, for the departments that are not using iron responding right now, Chuck has to go in and manually add and manage, say, 30 members of one department. So when we in dispatch get a call for X fire department and we assign that fire department to that card, Rip and Run pulls the call information, then it gets sent to 30 different email addresses, text email addresses that are managed by our IT. With iron responding, it's one text message that goes to that department's iron responding number. Iron responding parses that out to everybody on that department. So it's kind of like a group email. You have to say, county email. Everybody's listening to the county email. Then you have to go, or you have to go in and add, all the commissioners, department heads, people, and it's all these different methods going this way. It's one shot to iron responding. The other side of it is the Google Groups Gmail process that we have for some of that's started. There's no method for us just to send a text message to a department or send a notification to the department. That's a one-time do a Spillman and it's done. I am responding, on the other hand, we have the ability to continually update new text messages to the department, say you can stand down, false alarm. We've used it at least 2 times that I can think of off the top of my head. When we had problems here at the RCC that we were immediately able to notify all of our departments. One was in the middle of the night and we lost all of our radios. Hey, we go in, I'm responding as a separate web-based program that receives our text message, but also can manage some of the information that we send a blast message out to all the departments say we're down on the radio. So don't either call us or we'll send you more text. The other time was when we had the Spillman patch update. We let everybody know right at the get-go through I am responding to that. You will not receive text notifications from Spillman if you have any calls. That's just one little minor benefit. Some of the other benefits is the departments all have their I am responding set up, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I'll use my department's example. We do use I am responding. We go in, we update where our water supplies, our hydrants, our landing zones, our hazardous places, people with solar panels, all of these things that are hazards. RCC, we have a dispatch screen free to us that we can see every department's input. So we can see who they have on duty. We can see, so as an iron responding user, I get a text message that says I got a fire call on 123 Main Street. I pull my phone out, oh geez, I pull the app up, I hit iron responding, and it shows on the dispatch screen and department screen, Chief Connery's on his way to the call. So that helps us in dispatch because sometimes radio traffic, we don't hear back. So we're sitting here toning and retoning because we don't know that they're going. We see the screen, we go, oh, they got 4 guys going. They got a call. We want to keep toning. There's a few other administrative features as well. But the big thing to me is the text messaging because that allows us to, when all else fails, I can log on to my phone with my phone's internet, and I can send messages to everybody.
So right now, your department's using it.
My department is using it.
And what are your costs?
So the way that their fee structure is if you have 100 calls or less a year, it's $300 a year for each department to do that. If you have 101 calls more, it's $800 for annual subscription. And as going back through call because one of the things they asked for is what's anybody's call volume? And we have a lot of departments out there that are on the $300 a year plan, and they do an average for 3 years. There's only like 3 departments right now, fire departments that are less than 100 calls a year. And a lot of several departments have opted not to do this because of the cost. But it gives us the ability, my goal is everybody's on the same system so that we don't have 4 of them on, the Google groups and there's another program, e-dispatching, we have one department that's doing that. But this gets everybody on board with one program, so I have the ability to reach out to all of them and say, this is.
So do you feel like in the end, would there be resistance from the other departments to kind of like everyone to this form of messaging?
I haven't got any resistance. I've got more people that aren't announcing this. We'd love to do it. We can't afford to do it. But if the county provided, it, we will.
That's what the 16,000.
This is at 60. That's because that's way less than I figured out. Because I went through their method of 300 and 800. And I came up with 25,000.
So who's gave you that figure?
That was the company, Irish company. Yeah, they basically took all of the towns in Hancock County, all the fire departments and EMS services, and they just said, okay, this is the number of calls that everybody gets. And they pared it down. There's a lot of discount in there. They've broken it down to, over 100 calls, $500 or $600 per department versus the 80. And it's much cleaner to them as well because it's you got a department that renews in April and a couple that renew in March. I've had a good deal. So
you have a funding plan for this?
well, that was the question is if we started it sooner than later, I would maybe request either community benefits or ARP money to get it started and then put it on the budget for the after that is a service contract under my budget.
This is qualified for.
I'd have to look into ARP a little bit more. I think so, based on under the 10 million loss option that expands those, and RCC is a current government service that we use. So yeah, I'm like 70% confident.
Would it be, if it did, would it be more prudent to take the full 5 years and put it towards ARP now?
I don't think so at this point.
Why would you not use ARP for the full amount as opposed to taking 1 year of ARP and 4 years of budget?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a downside to that. I think this is going to be something that's going to be a continual. And there is I think I figured out a $4,000 or $5,000 savings by doing it all at once.
But my point though is that why are we going to the tax base when we could be using the spending relevance to pay for this for 5 years? What's the logic there?
I just wonder if other options within those 5 years might become available sort of through the Spillman coordinator. What about that? I'm gonna leave that to Bob. If Bob, this is,
Again,
I thought we talked about this, but yeah, if his recommendation is to do it for the full 5 years and it's gonna be around, then I'm not opposed to it.
I'm not opposed. I just thought if we were going to do that, we would. I mean, we kind of talked about trying it out for the year, but I think a lot of departments have used this for a long time. I don't think there's anything out there. And again, talking with Raleigh, I called him just to get to verify there was nothing in Spillman that was going to supersede this, and it really is more of a management, which would still require either the Spillman coordinator or Chuck to continue to. If we went away from all of this, it doesn't preclude the departments from doing it themselves anyway. Like responding like some of them do now. So it's kind of just to try to, again, make it cleaner so that it's one method versus.
Are you gonna have an annual 16 or 17,000 dollar fee after the 5 years?
After the 5 years, whatever, they would probably come back, and, I mean, so far they have not up their fees in 7 or 8 years that we've been involved with them. With our responding, they have just basically a set fee. I can't imagine they'll come back out, who knows, and they might come out.
Is there any chance that you could pay for a 1 year fee now and then 5 year fee and years 2 to 6?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, all we have to do is say.
We're deciding on whether or not this is actually something to use.
Well, I mean, there's many departments using it now, and I think there's a lot of value in bringing everybody into that one, so that it's one we don't have the mismatch that we have now, some using one program that we can't do anything with, and then others using a program that can do things with. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
I understand that too. Is there a buy-in from each department in time and labor?
Just the handful of departments that actually aren't using it right now to put their own people in. That's the nice thing is the department manages there's a method, they have an administrator function, they put their people in, they update the people's phone numbers, that takes the county
No
side.
reason to not let come out and say, this is too much.
I can't imagine it because they're the ones that I've talked to that don't have it.
So a lot of communities use this, I learned.
There's quite a few that do use it.
Yeah. Bar Harbor, I don't know about Ellsworth, but.
Ellsworth's using it.
Ellsworth, Southwest.
Yeah, and we have right now through the RCC and the county, we have a county-wide dispatch screen already that we see Bar Harbor, Mount Desert's things that they have going on as well. It's shared as one county's. So there's really no work for the departments that are using it already it's basically just takes the financial burden off them. We pay for it instead of them paying for it.
So that's my question. Right now, a lot of, it sounds like probably the bigger departments are using it. I don't know if that's a fair generalization.
I would say a good 2/3 to 3/4 of departments in the county are already subscribing to Iron Responding because of the features that it gives them that the Google Groups doesn't. Like I use it when I look at my text message, it gives me cross streets. I know it gives me mapping so that when I pull up the call, I used it the other day or last, for the ice rescue, like it's out Jacob Muck Pond, just like I'm in a town. I pulled the app up for the mapping and now I can cut right across. I got there way quicker. And so there's other functionality that's available to the departments that is not available in any other method.
So what this project would be doing is removing the cost from the current, like Bar Harbor asked the chief, he pays $800 a day. So we would be removing that $800 and the county would be covering. So how many departments, how many departments are we talking about?
We're looking at probably 30 departments, give or take, between the EMS and the fire departments.
And so, assuming that they're all 800, which some of them aren't, that's 24,000. So there is a savings in the county doing it. Well, we don't know that because we don't know what their rate is.
Well, no, their rates are either 300 or 800.
Okay.
So Iron Responding provided me the user, the 300 or the 800 groups. And I'm going to say out of the 10 departments that said they got 100 calls or less, now with call volume increasing, they're all going to be in the $800 group.
Okay.
So when I took what I knew of as current numbers and I multiplied it based on their fee scale to each individual department, I came up with about $24,000.
Yeah. So, my question is, okay, why, if they're already doing it, why us do it? And taking it away from them, because really they're paying anyways.
Well, they're going to still end up paying for it, I think, in the end. I mean, if we bring it on board through taxation, they're still going to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're still going to be able to manage their own departmental business, per se. They're still, we're not going to take away Bar Harbor's ability to go in and add firefighter Joe and remove firefighter Jane. They're still going to administer their.
Nobody loses any functionality.
Nobody loses any functionality. They actually gain functionality because as we bring on everybody else that's not on it, they also can see each other's mapping, each other's people going to calls. It actually enhances their use.
So even though, like some of these departments dispatch, like Bar Harbor and Ellsworth have their own dispatch. So it doesn't take any of their dispatch functionality away from them.
It does absolutely nothing. It changes nothing for the fire department other than not paying, not having to look at, now I got to come up with $800 for this great tool.
So how, since all of them are paying now, how do we get away from, how do we know that for a period of time, we're not paying twice?
So what?
Or
Oh,
not
they're
us, them not paying
So,
twice.
so I asked them, I asked this question, I said, if we do this, obviously it's gonna be everybody in the county, the county pays the 15,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
I made it certain that they would refund all the towns that have already paid. They would get a prorated refund, because I've had one or two departments already say, hey, we heard this might happen, we got to come up with $800. So we got paid, we're not ready to do this. But I verified that they would get.
Okay, so that won't be paid.
So Armstrong's not gonna get
Paid twice.
20,000 from the fire departments, and the county's gonna throw them another 15, is there, and look, that's it, everybody starts. But if it's April 1st, or May 1st, this is a new contract for everybody in Hancock County, everybody that's got a balance is gonna get refunded. I know $800 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a floor gas meter, that's an explosion air meter for my department to go as a volunteer to go out and buy. That's, $800 for volunteer fire department is huge, it's a huge amount of money. It doesn't sound like it, when you're talking, $50,000 fee, but.
Now, there is, this does have some law enforcement.
This particular program it could be set up that way, that it's not really, we don't plan on adding law enforcement to it, because the thought process there is that the sheriff doesn't want to get a text message every time that somebody gets a littering complaint. Or, the deputy that's off for 4 days, and, we put 30, 40 calls a day in the CAD. That goes out to everybody in the department, so that poor guy who's trying to go on vacation is getting littering complaint, motor vehicle complaint, 911 call.
Yeah. So, and then, but Spillman has a way of dispatching,
It's,
like if you get a fire call in the RCC.
Yeah.
You use Spillman.
I use phone, yeah.
You have a way of, well, I don't know about you, in Bar Harbor, I'm told that dispatcher can dispatch through I am responding, all the firefighters, for instance.
Correct. So, and it's like that for all the agencies. So Bar Harbor dispatcher gets the fire call. Dispatcher adds that into Spillman. The dispatcher assigns Bar Harbor Fire Department that call. The rapid notification program that resides with Spillman takes that information and sends it to I am responding already.
Okay, that's what
And then I am responding parses it out to all the firefighters. So on the law enforcement side, we did that through Spillman, and basically it's just a notification to the officers, but it's much easier to maintain because there's only so many, you know, small departments got 4 or 5 officers. That's not a huge challenge. It's the challenge is the.
And the reason I'm asking this question is there's an active effort in the county, from what I understand, for fire departments to get on Spillman.
Yep, that's a whole separate set of modules. That is Spillman directed. For example, one of those is, fire in Bar Harbor. Depending on if there's a fire at the Jackson Lab, for example, down in Bar Harbor, Spillman's fire modules will take that. The department can go in and add that address and say, okay, we have a fire here at this physical place. This is everything we need to be sent. So the dispatcher, it'll tell the dispatcher, you need to send, Montessori, Southwest Harbor, everybody down there, Trenton, Hancock, Ellsworth, and every department will go in and have that input. But that's completely separate from the dispatching tax. So this basically just takes, the dispatcher puts agency A on the call through the system, then it gets shipped out to that appropriate agency's cell phones for the text message.
So I guess, to me, this makes sense. I just, I'm worried that we don't get, from what I understand, you guys have a pretty tight knit working group, and, if we spend this money, I'd hate for us to get to a place where not enough people are adopting it, and we were better off, having left it to each department. That's the only danger, really.
Well, I think we would have the option if we have departments that decide that we don't like this, we don't do it anymore. We don't pay for it anymore. The next time, the next.
But they're paying through it, through their county assessment. Was my
Well,
only-
they're not paying for their own responding rate that they're doing right now through county assessment.
No, but they would be if we took it on.
Sure.
That's my only.
That's what I want to ask Scott about. So is I know we're talking about, well, we could use somebody maybe for this first year or whatever, in another way, but in the end, we're gonna get this worked into the budget, right? So that it's essentially paid through.
At some point, yeah. So as when I was first talking, and Commissioner Clark, actually, that's exactly what my thought process was, is because of the questions and talking with Director Connery in my office, thinking that, well, let's try it the first year and say, I'm not opposed to, if you really are, if he's convinced you, or inappropriately, I shouldn't say it that way. I think this project is worth a 5-year investment. But I think there's some questions about as to what level it's used. The issue with not using it, well, I'm not paying for it, but if enough aren't using it, is it really valuable? And so then are we taking on something that was unnecessary? So I think it will be around for at least 5 years, even with the Spillman coordinator possibilities. So whether, in my opinion, whether it's, try it 1 year and buy the 5 out of the mark the next time, or, to avoid the budget as long as possible.
So, I'm kind of in favor of the 1 year, and we try to use the ARP funds if we find that it's appropriate. If it, for whatever reason, we can't go through the ARP, then use community benefits to do it for the first year. And then we find, 10 months from now, we're getting ready to redo, that, it's going great. We still don't have all the spill issues resolved, which we probably won't anyway.
Right.
Then if we need to, we can get it worked into, we'll have an idea by the time we work to the budget.
Or
Next year's budget.
or if it's working really well, take a look at a 5-year contract, while you can still spend art monies and extend it even further.
See, that would be my suggestion, is that we do a 1-year project right now. Hopefully, we can get it taken out of ARP. If we can't, we'll take it out of community benefits and whatnot, and then get it in the budget next year.
Right.
If we can use ARP, we use ARP for a 1-year program. Come back next year and get a 5-year contract, do that with ARP. And so basically, we get 6 years out of ARP, and then at the end of that, we'll have to, if it's working at the end of 6 years. The thing I like about it is two things. First of all, our federal money, we always said we'd like to spread that out countywide. This will do that. 30 agencies are going to get this. If you can't use that, the program is still a countywide program, and we're going to save 3/4 of these agencies the money they're presently spending. So, I don't see any downside in not having this if the program's worth the money. So,
A lot of them are using it, they've been using it.
I like it.
And they like it. I said, I love it because I hated the Google Groups portion of it, because I got 4 text messages and it was all garbage. And out of the middle of that, I had to figure out where I was going.
Let's take some work off of
Yes.
IT's desk.
Well, it takes a lot of work off IT's, because like I said, just yesterday, Chuck got an email from one of the, both track phone and consumer cellular are the phones, but they use various carriers. Chuck has to go and figure out which company that particular phone, especially the track phone and the, I keep joking jitterbug, but all those random, not mainstream companies that it takes time for him to go research, troubleshoot. The company updates Google updates their rules and their processes, and suddenly AT&T folks don't work countywide.
okay, so Scott, should we put this off for 2 weeks and get confirmed that you can use our money and then do that next
That's
meeting?
what my.
I'd like to do that. I'd like to just put it off. You confirm that we can use ARP, then we'll come back and
I'll check with Kitty and see what her take is. And
just as a reminder, to remind myself whatnot, we're gonna talk about 1 year with ARP. If it works, we'll come back with a 5-year with ARP.
Well, and the other thing is, my guess is you're gonna be talking to the other departments too, as this progresses a little more, because I talked about Harbor Fire Chief, because I thought they were using this, I just wasn't sure, and was trying to get his feeling on what it is. And he didn't know that, you know,
Well,
one of his concerns is, are we both paying?
No,
And
well.
that kind of stuff.
I won't probably argue about the county car meetings. Just, because it's been discussed.
Yeah, but,
Okay, so I think that's how we should proceed then.
Yeah.
Just put it off for the next 2 weeks and come back with a confirmation that we can use ours. We'll do a 1 and then a 5.
and in the dispatch center, it sounds like it would be a tool that you don't have.
It's a tool, what's a tool we kind of have, but not with everything.
Yeah. That's right.
Gave you proclamation, motion.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna move to sign the proclamation in recognition of National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair, if I could,
Yes.
can I check and see on getting a couple of banners? Because it's not this week, it's next week, right? And if I can get a couple of banners for, I don't know, $100, $200 a piece, that I'd have okay to go ahead and order them. And my thought process is the corner fences that we have out by this tree and then the one up by the jail. This is kind of sort of one of the ideas to use that for, was to put the banners on there.
Yeah, there's money in the
Public
budget line
recognition and-
somewhere, yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
okay,
I agree with that.
consensus, okay, thank you.
That's good.
So we,
Said Bob?
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you very
and
much.
we need to sign that, right?
Yeah.
It's here somewhere.
We got a bunch of stuff that's just left for us.
We got a stack of stuff.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, what at the treasurer's warrant here? I'm gonna move to approve the monthly bills and warrants as presented.
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna move to accept the resignation of treasurer Michael Boucher effective immediately.
I'll second the motion. I've always been amused by this whole notion of accepting as opposed to acknowledging. I mean, obviously, we cannot accept. We've got to acknowledge, I mean, he's resigned. Whether we accept this or not, he's resigned. And so I really don't understand the concept of accepting as opposed to simply acknowledging.
Well, it memorializes it,
Yeah, I know it, and I know what it means.
and I kind of think that's important.
Before we vote, Rebecca, I know that you've been in contact, or tried to contact Secretary of State's office about the process. Can you update us on that?
Still no response from them.
Nobody's getting back to you?
No.
Oh, that's timely. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll,
The issue that Rebecca's trying to find out is replacement and all this other. Yeah. And so. Well, we're just, geez, I'm really disappointed.
yeah, me too. I mean, in a practical sense, nothing really changes right now with his resignation.
Nothing, right, which is curiosity, I guess, more than anything, is that how do we proceed?
Right.
I mean, best case scenario is that Rebecca's found some information that might give us the ability to simply suggest to the governor that Monica be appointed.
Generally, I think the way it works is that the party makes a recommendation.
Yeah, there's a clause in there, John, that says if the individual was nominated at the primary, then the party would be, but it seems to infer that if it doesn't, then that's not the case. And he wasn't nominated at the primary. He was right in for so that's really the legal issue that Rebecca's trying to resolve. And I just say the best case scenario is that we can basically decide ourselves. And I hope that we would support finance director for that position and make the whole process sweet.
Well, my feeling is that nothing really changes at this point, and there's no fires, and, you know, the next election's not that far away, and we have a path forward. You I don't see an emergency, do you?
No, no, I just like I say, curiosity more than
Wait, hear
anything.
back from the Secretary of State. All right, so I'll call a vote on that.
Aye.
All right, so now we're at our old jail update discussion.
Well, I think, at this point, we've seen the, issues with the falling debris, we've taken care of it. We're aware that the Ellsworth Historical Society is going through the main preservation for a grant. While I've sort of officially not received an official notification, my anticipation is that they were successful. I think so from that, for now, I know that I'm aware in reading the grant that there's still a process where, you know, they need to meet up and come up with contracts and to discuss cost and estimates and kind of reestablish all of that. So, again, so in regards to conversing with them or communicating with them, I offered them upon my return from vacation. You're aware that we were going to have a meeting and I went on vacation. They didn't want to meet. I offered to meet. They weren't ready. And then consequently, you know, in finding out information, things, so I think things are kind of like sort of status quo now at this point until, you know, hopefully they reach out to the county with any concerns and address, you know, issues such as we mentioned earlier about whether it be staging or any construction efforts, they stay, you know, I'm really hoping that that communication line stays open because that's going to be highly necessary for them to be successful.
Well, it's, and to be honest, it's on them. You know, if they start trying to do work from, you know, they're gonna have problems. You know, not because we're trying to be problematic, but just as a neighbor, you just can't work off a neighbor's property.
Right. It's a respectful obligation for them to, absolutely. Yeah.
So as I see it, this fall is even more in their court now.
Yep.
Well, quite honestly, I think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to get their grant money. Everything we've heard and whatnot, they were, anyways. One thing is we're sure of is that they haven't withdrawn their grant request since we told them that we were opposed to having an easement, a conservation easement put on the jail, which tells me that they're going forward with the grant, knowing that that's going to happen if they get that awarded. And as far as I'm concerned, they've drawn a line in the sand. We would offer to meet with them to talk about other options. If they would withdraw that, they don't want to meet, they didn't withdraw it. And I think we're sitting here today with the understanding that they're going to get the grant. There's going to be an easement placed on the old jail. And as I said last week, first of all, I think that violates the trust we had in the Historical Society that we would give them the building, not to own it, but as stewards of that building, that we to keep it, run it as a museum, keep it in the condition that we gave it to them in, and it would be returned to us in that same condition if they failed to restore it and couldn't manage it. And that's not happening. And I think that we should explore the option of discussing with our legal representative an action that would prevent them from placing any condition on that jail that would remove our options of how to take care of it if it ever came back to us. You know, the problem with this is, between us and the Historical Society is that they have more options available to them than we do, because in the event of a failure, they don't have to have an end game. They can simply walk away from the building. But for us, we have an end game, because if they walk away from the building and we get it back, we're faced with what we're going to do with it. And so the decisions that they make and we make today should, for us, should be in consideration of what's going to happen if we get that back. You know, They talk a good game right now, but the truth of the matter is, gentlemen, for 40 years, they've been trying to restore that and it failed. They have today raised what is probably going to be 10% of what they're going to need to completely restore the exterior, interior of that building. And to believe that they're going to be able to raise another $1,800,000 in the next few years, I think is just difficult for me to fathom. So I think that we should charge our county administrators to sit down with legal counsel and ask them if there is a process that we can start that would prevent Danish Preservation or the Ellsworth Historical Society from putting any condition on that deed that would prevent, that take away some of our options in the future if we got that back.
We're not compelled, as I read it, we're not compelled to take it. You know, if they, I know practically we probably are, but if that were to revert back, let's say they fail, they took the grant, that there's an obligation on their end. Now, yes, they've been awarded the grant, but that grant is matching fund, you know, there's a match to that grant. If they can't come up with a match, then they never really receive the money, and therefore there's not a an easement or deed restrictions on it. So that tempers the risk a little for me, not a lot, but it does a little bit. Knowing that we're not obligated legally to take it tempers it a little bit for me, because that would give us some, you know, a little bit of leverage, you know, and
Paul,
gives us a little bit of leverage.
I know I'm interrupting, Paul, but there is no way that we're not going to take that building back. If they walked in here today and said, here's a deed to the building, it's yours. It's county property. It's in the middle of our complex. There is no way that we're not going to end up owning that building if they fail and decide to give it up. So I don't even know why that's a consideration. I mean,
Well,
that's what we should be considering today, is that there is a good chance sometime in the next 5 to 6 years or whatever, that we're going to own that building again.
Yeah, my only point is that it would give us leverage to, you know, maybe get rid of the deed restriction. I said a little bit. I agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. But I do think that we need to find out where we legally stand. And I don't think it's in a very good position, to be quite honest. We don't own the building. And when you don't own something, you can't control what an outside third party does. Would be like me trying to stop a bank from lending you money from your neighbor or something. You know, maybe that's a little exaggeration, but not that far. But it would be interesting to know from, you know, a legal standpoint, an unbiased legal standpoint, what our options are. I'm not thinking that we have too many.
So I'm not opposed to talking with council to find out where we stand, just like Paul said.
The problem, John, excuse me, the problem is that it's one thing to ask an attorney, what do you think our chances are? It's quite another to find the right attorney and say, this is the position we're taking. We want you to fight to support our petition. I gotta tell you, 40 years of jurisprudence here, working with jurisprudence and whatnot. I don't know how many times we've seen people charged with a crime, you know damn well they were guilty. But that attorney took the case and said, I'm gonna do everything I can to get you off. Not because he thought he was innocent, but because that was his charge. And I think there's a big difference between asking Scott to get a legal opinion or asking Scott to find an attorney who can take our position that we're going to oppose this, we want to litigate it, and we want you to fight to keep this from happening. I think there's a big difference there.
there is a huge difference there, and that's exactly why I said what I did. Because I'm not prepared to take that step till I know till I have that opinion. Because that step ain't cheap.
I think it's very important that the board know what happens if this, again, they walk away from it. I think that would be worth the legal thought process in itself. And that never came, I'm kind of liking that approach a little bit to find out, because then that might help convince
Either side.
another vote to take a look at doing something further, maybe. I don't know, but that's because you mentioned earlier about the match is a very soft match. I read through I don't think the match is going to be an issue for this to continue, from what I read and understand and hear.
Okay.
But because if it was, I think the overall game plan leading to, in other words, they're going to need the change in the deed in order to have a game plan to make this work in finality. But I don't think that was really taken into consideration here as seriously as it should be. But because you're going to have a liability here to find out if this building comes back, they walk away from it, it's now ours. These fallen bricks now, that's
ours.
There's no more shared responsibility. That's completely ours. Just like right now, somebody gets hurt out there, which is why it was appropriate for us to do something. They're going after the bigger pocketbook. Well, we know who's got the bigger pocketbook. So.
And if you're going to ask Scott to give an opinion, then why don't you ask him to also give an opinion on how difficult is it to demolish that building once they put a conservation easement? Because I can tell you right now, I did talk to an attorney.
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
No, it is. It's expensive, it's difficult, it's time consuming. And if you're talking about the expense of keeping one bond there, match it up to what it's going to cost to try to get it off later. And the liability and the expense that we could face for keeping that thing standing for the next 15 years, waiting for that easement to expire. I'm saying that we should start right now, put EHS on notice that we're going to litigate this matter. We don't want that easement on there, and we start the process right now to block that from happening.
That may be the answer. I'm not convinced. I'd like an opinion before. I'm
Yeah,
not
but if the
disagreeing
opinion comes
with you.
back that the chances are slim to none, then you're never going to take that step. You're going to sit here and wait for it to happen and then put up with it for the next 12 years. I don't know how long you gentlemen think you're going to be here, but I'm not going to be around that's one of your decisions to make.
I don't know if it's worth it. I'll tell you, I don't need a lawyer to tell me what happens if they walk away from that building. But I'm not disagreeing. And that's why I pointed out that in order to get any motion approved to go any further, that might help attain that. And I would say, gosh, I can't imagine more than an hour, maybe 2 hours of a lawyer looking at it going, from what I'm seeing, if you hold legal right to that building prior, and it states in the deed that if these conditions don't exist, it comes back to you. It's kind of a no-brainer.
I just think that action, if we decided to do it today, is committing probably serious resources that I am just not prepared to make that decision. What it's gonna take is an executive session with an attorney. And probably that's the next step after our administration. I don't know. Maybe you should outline what next steps are.
Reading the timeline, you have a little bit of time, but I think we're running a little late as it is.
Yeah.
To responding. I completely agree that if you're gonna do something, we should do it now. I completely agree with that. Yeah, but what I'm what I'm saying is, to think about it for a few days, or even the next meeting.
I've been thinking about it now for 3 months.
I fully understand that.
I think we all have.
You recognize my efforts here.
I
I'm
don't know
trying.
why we're thinking about it any longer. We thought about this now for weeks. We knew this was coming up. And we should have been thinking about what are we going to do about this? Because if you're not going to do anything, simply be prepared in the future to do something.
Well, we know because of their statements that if they got this grant, they're coming to us for money.
I tell you, this
They
line,
said that.
this line they drew in the sand and whatnot is basically just, as prejudice me from giving them one down.
Well, that and quite frankly,
If they get it, they're gonna get it from you two.
how they treated the chair is another one for me.
So I'm in favor of getting with the attorney. Have an executive session, the next meeting.
You know,
Yeah, I mean,
that's another thing too, is that I know where your first choice, not the first choice, but probably the logical place is to get that opinion. And I'm not convinced that's the place that we should go.
Okay,
I'm just, that's my personal opinion, but you know that
But we do have a,
we don't have a contract with them.
no, my only suggestion would be is I'm not sure that this would be of that particular, I think I have access to another resource there that I would trust a little bit more on this one.
That would be my request, that Scott, that you
Yeah,
get together with your contacts and whatnot, select somebody who might have an expertise in this.
Yeah.
Not only an expertise, but a willingness to take this on, even though the odds might be against us.
are you okay with it being the same firm?
I don't care who it is.
Oh, okay,
It's an individual that I'm concerned.
yes, so, yes, and so,
yeah, they all have to.
that would be my, I like that, really like that recommendation and that action to at least, and so I guess basically, we're talking the deed and how does that work, and then anything beyond that, or do you want to have the full conversation in an executive session?
Listen, you and I have talked, we've talked here again today, whatnot, you understand explicitly what the issues are. I think this is the conversation you need to have with them and whatnot, and let him do a little research if he wants to. Then I'd like to talk to them too, at the executive session next meeting.
Yeah,
That's
what the options are.
good.
All right, so
I'm good.
that's the plan?
To me, before I can decide, yeah, we should go down this path, or we shouldn't, we need to know what the options are. And right now, I don't feel that.
Is all three of you in consensus with that? Okay. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I have a little break here.
Okay.
We got one more issue, and it's not gonna take long.
Almost, I think we're almost done.
C is gone.
Okay.
And
Oh, yeah,
so if we,
So, can I make my motion, or do we need, well, I'll make my motion, we take a break. Move to go to executive session as permitted by MRSA Title I, Section 405-6A for exempt employee evaluation.
second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we need a break before we go in, or no?
Scott indicated in his email that he didn't have a lot of comment.
We're still on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So let's,
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna put it in.